Hello, welcome back to Psychic Tarot card reading. So this reading is on 2020, the rest of the year 2021. Underneath the video, I'm going to put the link of the reading I did back in January, I believe it was on 2021. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the kind of energy, so that reading that I did of 2021 touched on the fact that the main energy, the primary energy was of that the truth would be getting exposed throughout the year. That's the similar energy, of course, that I'm picking up for the rest of this year, but in a more violent fashion. Yeah, in a more violent fashion. Hence why I'm actually doing this reading, because just the energy has started feeling a little bit like it's picking up, a bit like a whirlwind. Yeah. Um so the primary energies that I'm picking up So the primary energy that I'm picking up, I'll start with this card, the 10 of abundance. That's what it reads. So first things first, what I'm getting is that these changes, and they are permanent, more or less permanent changes in terms of energies, like the truth being exposed. It's not temporary. So in other words, if you've been feeling uncomfortable with the truths, and I'm not speaking of their actions, I'm speaking of the energy of things being exposed. If you've been feeling uncomfortable with those things, I'd advise you get a deck of cards and look into it, just to ease your mind into what is going on. Because it's not about to stop. It's not about to be stopped. It isn't something that any human being can stop. Because people started people started the movement, or rather the energy of being woke, of being awakened. So, because people have started it and people have enough spiritual energy to get things moving, so that energy has started and it's now snowballed, and it's not about to be stopped by any human being. So, meaning if these exposures, these truths have been making you like deeply uncomfortable, then it's time to ease yourself into it. If you don't, it's going to feel brutal. Yeah, it's the only way I can put it. For the rest of the year, I mean. And, in the reading that I did in 2021, the earlier reading, what came up was that the latter part of the year, so I know that things have been kind of relatively neutral, relatively stable, as opposed to before, uh during these past few weeks and months. That's not going to continue. So that reading that I did, that earlier reading on 2021, did show that the cards for the middle of the year were pretty neutral, compared to, as opposed to, the cards for the latter part of the year. And since we're about to edge into July, we're entering into the latter part of the year. Again, hence why I'm doing this reading, because it's really picking up as something, like almost ominous, dangerous, but it's more dangerous for those who do not want to face the truth, or those who do not want to own up to the truth. Now, what's been happening for quite some time, because of the mob mentality, and I don't mean negatively, I mean just in general, the neutral aspect of the mob mentality, it's enabled people, it's enabled people to feel extremely comfortable with giving a pass to people who do not speak the truth, or people who purposefully are willing to hide the truth. But what's so because of that mob mentality, a lot of people have become used to not doing the needful when the opportunity arises. And they sort of pick and choose based on their biases. They pick and choose what truth they want exposed and what truth they do not want exposed. But what is coming ahead is truth being exposed without biases. And that means people who had been covering up, or who had sort of been selective in wanting to in exposing the truth, they also are going to be found out. Yeah. So I feel the need to say that because a lot of people have been hiding under the cover of I can't, I've said this before anyway, hiding under the cover of I can't get the karma I deserve. Now, they may not say this consciously to themselves, but they certainly think it in their spirit. I can't get, or I won't get the karma I deserve because there are many people who think like me. There are many of us. So there's no way that karma, as it's known, can ever reach me in the physical term. But what they don't know is that the spiritual realm is a lot more. First of all, the spiritual realm is coming on board. It's going to become more prominent, louder, a lot louder than the physical. So imagine your conscience troubling you a lot more. Imagine your conscience troubling you a lot more than the law, troubling you a lot more than the police, troubling you a lot more than politicians, rules and regulations. That's where we're going. That's what's going to become. So meaning you won't and one of the worst things is, I guess, worst or best things, you can't escape your conscience. It is with you. So that's one thing where I'm advising. If up until now you're one of those who had been hiding from the truth, use a deck of use cards to ease yourself into the atmosphere of the truth being known, because it's going to be brutal. And when I say brutal, it's like you're going to feel pretty shaken. Yeah. It's as if, when shocking things take place and you feel shaken, it's a kind of shaking that you're experiencing it on your own. A bit like when you hear someone has passed away. Let me use the example of Michael Jackson, for example. People would always say, oh, where were you when you heard that Michael Jackson passed away? Or where were you when you heard that Princess Diana passed away? Something that's monumental, but you get to, it's so monumental that everybody feels it, like everybody gets to experience it at the same time. It's like a rite of passage, but like at the same time, you get to feel your emotions individually, to the extent where, of course, even if someone tries to comfort you, you're still feeling it within your spirit, like your bones. Even you feel almost sick, like ill. That's exactly what's taking place in the truth being exposed. So a lot of people have to wake up to whether they are unconsciously or consciously preventing themselves from acknowledging the truths that are being exposed. Yeah. So, and these are, out of the three cards, there are two cards that are kind of dark, on the dark side, darkish, bluish, and one that is light. So this one that is light, meaning that the darkness, in quote, of the truth, because the truth is quite heavy based on the witchcraft, the amount of witchcraft that has been or that will be exposed. It might feel as if, well, it is dark, it is darkness. And a lot of people might, I'd say, in the hypocrisy or deceit to them, like they might try to paint the truth as something that is not good, simply because it tends to expose the darker side, the darker nature of humanity. But it's actually, as this card shows, the summary of these is the end. The ending is that it's good. It's light. It's light. Yeah. Um, because this card, not only is it light, like yellow, signifying hope, something hopeful, it also has white in it. So, like, again, hope, white, kind of linking to a dove, life, hope, things like those, purity, being able to see clearly. And the seeing clearly is in the spiritual realm. And, as you can see this picture here, there's a child involved. So meaning that we're getting to the stage where there's going to be so much spiritual power, like if I can say magic, that even children are going to be protected from the heavy spiritual, like Machiavellian witchcraft influence and activities that have been taking place for the past century. Yeah, or centuries. So a lot of things are being exposed, and it's the sort of exposure that happens once, like it's in a lifetime. It's never going to happen this way again. And I know that I sound over dramatic, but that's what I see. It's the sort of exposures, it's the sort of truth telling that people will never be able to recover from. They will not be able to recover from. Um, when I'm saying that, it doesn't mean they can't change or repent, but it literally means they will never be seen as they used to be seen again. A lot of things that tend to happen in our cultures is that, people will do something negative, they get thrown on the bus, and then they come back. But there's no coming back from the way people are going to see these people, are going to see you. And this is not just for celebrities, as I'm saying this, it's for everybody. Hence this card. This card literally showing a family from the adult to the children. From And you can see the adult is sitting down. So the sitting down aspect signifies people who had been silent, meaning that even you may have been silent, i.e., not standing up, be it for the truth or for yourself, but it doesn't matter. You will still be in the picture. Yeah, you're still going to be future in the picture. So whether you're sitting, whether you're standing, it doesn't matter. And the adult sitting down literally signifies what a lot of adults had been doing, sitting down in the midst of darkness, like dark energy. Um, the fact that this isn't black, the color, it's more a bluish. It means when I say dark energy, it's not necessarily, it isn't evil. It isn't it isn't evil. It's more of karma. Yeah, karma. As I've mentioned in the past, because we've gone so long without the truth, without justice, elements of justice, people tend to now see or feel as if the justice that is taking place and will take place in the future is actually unfair. So much so that they fight against it. They sit on the truth and therefore karma. There cannot be karma without the truth being exposed. So I feel like, these cards and then the contradiction, literally for the end of the year. And in that video, that earlier video I did on 2021, it literally showed the end of the year cards. There was such a contrast, a contradiction. Because people tend to, it's part of hypocrisy, whether knowing hypocrisy or unknowing, whether on purpose or not on purpose. If it's not on purpose, then you're not to be blamed. But if it is on purpose, then of course you're to be blamed because you're doing it on purpose. But there is the hypocritical side of people calling for the truth, people calling for karma, people trending for the truth, people behaving, people acting, people speaking as if they want the truth, as if they themselves are honest with themselves, as if they themselves are truthful people. Whereas when the truth then gets exposed, they get very selective about what they want coming out. And so for the fact that this is uniform and then it matches with this blue area, like literally shows you can't hide away from what is going to bring the karma that you say you want to see. If you want karma, then you're going to have to stop sitting on the truth. And because people had been doing that for such a long time, hence the white hair. The white hair on the adult, literally kind of indicating he's pretty grown up, he's pretty old-ish. So he's been around for quite a while. And for the fact that the picture, the card captured his position as sitting down, literally shows he's not used to standing up. Like it's been a while since he stood up in the midst of these young spirits, these younger energies. Yeah. So meaning people have been sitting down on the truth for quite some time. And when I say the younger energies, literally meaning, young energies are akin to young energies are akin to people who want to sorry, akin to people who want to know the truth. Because young spirits are curious, very curious. And my emphasis is on spirits, not people, not human beings. Because even though, right, even though this card shows an adult with gray hair, it is not in the physical realm. So this is also part of what I mean about the spiritual realm coming on board. In my readings, when I point out something, it isn't just like in the physical. That's not what it means. It's first of all, what does the spiritual realm say about it? So meaning this adult looking person is not an adult in the physical realm. It's an adult in the spiritual realm who has been sitting down. So speaking of the truth, this energy of the latter part of the year, which is the truth coming on board, it means in the midst of the truth, in the spiritual realm, those who are elderly have been sitting down, are those who have been sitting down on the truth or karma. Or rather, in the spiritual realm, those who have been sitting down on the truth, yeah, let me put it that way. So in the spiritual realm, when you look at this card, those who are sitting down or who have been sitting down for quite a while, are those who were sitting down on the truth. So now in the physical realm, it means that even if in the physical realm they are young people, they would still be in within the same energy of those who sit on the truth. Yeah. So therefore, meaning young people are not excluded from this karma that I am talking about. Because I do sense horrible energy. I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but there really has to be a lot of karma going around. Because one of the main things is so much hypocrisy, intense hypocrisy. Young people, I won't say especially because it's kind of been, fluctuating, and it's a range of elderly people to young people. But a lot of teenagers have purported or professed to want to know the truth or profess to know the truth. And you can't blame them for professing those things because they've got the internet, they've had the internet. But ironically, they've tried to use the internet to stifle things like freedom of speech, which is not on. If you try to stifle freedom of speech, what you're doing is trying to stifle the truth. Because even if the person you're trying to stifle today is not speaking the truth, even if they're not speaking the truth, by creating and establishing that energy of stifling freedom of speech, what you're doing across the board is also stifling people or children in the future who would want to speak the truth, but they may not be able to because of the paradigms you've now established in this present time of not allowing people to speak the truth. I hope that makes sense. And the karma coming in for these teenagers because they knew what they were doing. There's nobody who can claim they have not heard of tyrants. They can't claim that because, in fact, they've used the example of tyrants in order to stifle people, in order to silence freedom of speech. So it's literally coming back in reverse as a bit of karma. Yeah. Now, the other karma that I'm seeing is for, and I'm going to say this because it may sound abstract to what I'm mentioning, but it matters. And, again, feel free to continue watching or to stop watching because you might feel offended, but I have to say it. Cambridge fans, the fans of the Cambridge family, from what I've picked up in this, like they've been so adamant about stifling the truth. You may recognize yourself in this. When I do readings, it is never to condemn, but it is to let people know because I cannot know what I consider to be the truth and not be willing to tell other people. It wouldn't make sense. So If you recognize yourself in this, change. Because the karma that is coming, you know, I've mentioned this time and time again, too many times for you to then pretend later on that you have not picked up on what I'm saying or what I've been talking about. Because that's something that I've been picking up in my spirit. That these people who have watched or who watch my readings are sort of pretending that they haven't seen what I'm talking about, that they don't understand. They dismiss it, all in the hopes that, in the hypocrisy, they will pretend as if they never understood what I had been talking about. I mean, even going so far as to blame me for being responsible for their problems, for feeling suicidal and whatnot. But you won't be able to put that on me. So I have to say that now. You will not be able to put that spiritual energy on me. By the time it happens, it would feel as if it's actually tarot readers and truth speakers who have been creating that energy. Yeah, that's what I'm picking up. When it happens, much like when I started doing readings on Meghan Markle and even other tarot readers as well, we're picking up energies that you would never have seen coming. Like the disrespectful attitude to the Queen and to members of the public. It's something that would have seemed outrageous at the beginning of their marriage, I beg your pardon. But then it ended up happening. And by the time it happened, it felt so, it felt so normal, like as to be expected, because that energy, it slowly built up the disrespectful attitude. So when it happened, it didn't feel like a shock. Though it was shocking, it didn't feel like the utmost shock just because people had already gotten used to Meghan Markle being in that kind of doing those things, that kind of energy. Well, likewise, the same thing. When the Cambridges get exposed in one way or another through different things, to the point where the public tide is going to shift, is going to change, the fans of the Cambridges, because they would have gotten so involved in the defense of the Cambridges, even at the expense of the truth, which they knew was the truth, they're going to feel pretty outraged. And I have to say this because it doesn't escape my spirit. It was one of the greatest disappointments to pick it up and to keep picking it up, to keep seeing it. Cambridge fans fighting tarot readers in the realm of the spirit, trying to pretend as if the Cambridges are perfect. Now, in the physical realm, they might say, "Oh, the Cambridges, I know they're not perfect," but they say these things, but they know that deep down, they pretend as if the Cambridges are perfect. Why am I saying that? Because the minute when you criticize the Cambridges, be it William or Catherine, they jump on you, even though they purport that they claim that the Cambridges are not perfect. If you believe truly that they're not perfect, why would you not resist, but why would you fight others who are showing you what they are seeing in the cards? So, in terms of spiritual activity, there's a lot of karma to go around, and one of the main bits of karma that I'm seeing is going to come on the Cambridge fans of the Cambridges. Now again, due to the level of deception that people have been sort of convincing themselves, they may convince themselves that they are not fans of the Cambridges, or they were not, but you'd have to examine yourself and see whether, though you may not follow the royal family, though you may not be, in quote, a royal watcher, watching them every day, do you jump at the chance, like on the occasion, to defend the royals or the Cambridges? And I'm not speaking of the children. Because when I say these things, I pick up that a lot of people try to pretend as if I'm talking about the children. I can see your intentions, and I don't want my words to be misconstrued, because it gets done a lot in the realm of the spirit, and I don't want that to happen. I'm speaking of the adults in this equation. A lot of people, they run with defending the Cambridges, the royal family, without even wanting to sit back and consider what is being said. Again, I'll bring up the example of the royal reporters. You know, the occasion where the royal reporter mentioned that William lied about getting COVID. You know, at some point you have to admit to yourself, is it PR or is it a lie? And if it's a lie, have we as a society, or have you as as an alleged moral person, because you've got to be moral or consider yourself to be morally sound if you're willing to disparage Meghan Markle. It's not wrong to disparage her because she's a horrible person, she's an evil person, but whilst you're doing that, the implication is that, or the insinuation is that you're better morally than Meghan Markle is. It might be true. In which case, why would you deny a lie by a member of the Cambridge family? Why would you deny that William lied about getting COVID? It's so simple, but you fight against it. Why? It's this because it's so obvious. It's so obviously perverse. The denial of the truth. And in the spiritual, like the willingness of the Cambridge fans, at least those who are willing to hide the truth about what the Cambridges have been doing underneath the surface. It's so deliberate that you will get your karma, and I have no choice but to say it, like to mention it, even in the reading of 2021. And because what's going to happen is, whether you acknowledge to yourself or not that you're a fan of the Cambridges or that you support them, if you've been supporting them in your head, like even if you haven't had the courage to mention it out loud, but you support them in your head, the spiritual realm has come on board, and that support of them in your head, again, it's going to catch up with you in ways that you cannot imagine. Witchcraft is real, and these people practice it. So really, this reading mainly focuses, I mean, I'm going to put in the title, it's spiritual, it's about spiritual energies. It's no longer about like physical activities. It's what is the intention behind your spiritual activities. So meaning that people whose intentions were throughout this like beginning of the year and beyond were to hide the truth, or pretend, hide the truth, like sit down when things are being exposed, they will get the karma in ways that, okay, I can say they'll feel disappointed, but the word disappointment doesn't cover it. Imagine Meghan Markle's activities times a billion. You won't feel comfortable with yourself. You are going to feel pretty guilty. Now, I don't know how many Christians there are here, but you know the story of Judas. After he betrayed Jesus and for 30 pieces of silver. And again, I'm explaining this because you may not think it's relevant at the moment, but it will catch up with you. When Judas betrayed Jesus, he then went on to hang himself. That's exactly how you would feel if you don't deal with this refusal of the truth now. When it comes to karma, it's not how people would imagine it. Imagine if karma was how people thought it is. Then it'd be too easy for hypocritical people to escape karma, because they would watch for when the tide is turning and they would jump to it. They never get to confront their own biases. They never get to confront themselves and any potential, closing of their eyes when the truth is exposed. So what's taking place is the spiritual realm is catching people unawares. It's literally to say, you will not be caught unawares if you stick to the path of letting yourself know or telling yourself this simple truth, this simple phrase, okay, I'm willing to know the truth, no matter who it might be, no matter who it is. If the truth gets exposed about a person, I'm willing to consider it. I may not come right out and denounce my support for the person, but I'm willing to consider it, even if it's a little bit. So long as it sounds convincing, I'm not going to reject it. Like, I'm not going to have a knee-jerk reaction that, no, this is not true. Just that simple notion is going to keep you out of this danger that I'm talking about. This danger of your own conscience troubling you so much, because you won't be able to dodge the growing realization. Just like, the way Meghan Markle has been exposed, it was not in a one-time thing. People didn't just suddenly wake up and say, oh, Meghan Markle is horrible. No, it builds up gradually from, especially when she announced her pregnancy at Princess Eugenie's wedding, people woke up. And from there, the tide turned. And then gradually and increasingly, people's spirits, because it's one thing, people can support or hate you in the physical, but not hate you in the spiritual realm. Or they may support you in the physical, but not support you in the spiritual. Well, Meghan Markle, the support for her diminished in the spiritual realm, even though people kept making excuses for her in the physical, but it gradually changed. And that, in a way, that is what it's part of what ruined her plans. Because if you notice, whenever she tried to do something to break the internet or whatever, it will always get overtaken by another event. That's because that's that kind of karma, because of people waking up in the spiritual realm. When people wake up, or when the truth gets exposed and gets accepted in the spiritual realm, it engenders a kind of multiply effect where things will then come in to keep exposing and keep blocking the plans of the person who has done evil. So likewise with the Cambridge fans, if you've been sitting on the truth for this long, bear in mind, you're not going to be able to see when the tide is turning. You just won't. You might think right now, even as you're watching this, that you will. You might think, oh, you might lie to yourself, deceive yourself that, okay, it doesn't matter. I don't care what this person is talking about. This girl is just speaking rubbish. I'm going to change when the tide turns. I'm going to feel offended. If I see something the Cambridges do that the public is going to wake up to, I'm going to pretend that I'm offended, or I will act as if I'm offended. What I'm saying sounds outrageous, but these are really people's thoughts. Like, these are people's thinking patterns that I've been picking up so much and so gradually, like throughout the year, that I can't escape it. So these people thinking that they can see it coming, they will not be able to. And when it creeps upon you, you're going to feel pretty horrible about yourself. So I just thought I should say that, because you still have your chance to escape escape the karma of all these pretense that you've been up to during the year, throughout the year. Now, I'm mentioning the Cambridge fans because they are part of the nexus. They become a part of the nexus. I'm going to stop this video here and continue in the next video, because I don't want it to cut off.